Welcome to another edition of Chocobo Chasers, your first post-media credentialed episode of Chocobo Chasers.
Fucking big time, dude.
I know,
Your podcast doesn't have press passes.
Killing
You
the
fucking
game now.
suck.
Obviously, I'm G, and as always, I'm joined by the Chocobros, Erik and Dash. How are you guys doing tonight?
Doing
Pretty good. Yeah.
Glad to hear it, boys. Well, as always, be sure to like, share, subscribe wherever you go ahead and get your podcasts. We are coming in here with a little bit of news. Obviously, we're going to do a little bit of a recap here from FanX, and I'll talk a bit about my experience. But as always, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start the episode off with what are you playing? Erik, I'm going to save you for last because you have something that I really want to talk about. I'll go ahead and I'll kick us off today. I beat Alone in the Dark this week, and then subsequently traded it in towards Silent Hill 2, which felt like a really good decision. So I talked about this game last week. I didn't hate it. I thought it was pretty decent. Game goes absolutely off the rails in the final bit. Not to say that I didn't enjoy it, but Resident Evil has a tendency to do this too, where the game is so good at this horror and then builds up to this Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone action heavy sequence. This was just madness and chaos, but to that extent. It went off the fucking rails. It did make the game a little worse in my opinion. Especially because I actually liked the vibe that the game put out for a good bit of it, and it was a little janky, like I talked about. From a movement perspective, it is not it doesn't hold a candle to the Resident Evil remakes. So finished it. I probably will never play that game again unless it becomes available, on Epic or PlayStation Plus or something like that. Speaking of PlayStation Plus, before I get to the next game, October is a fantastic month for PlayStation Plus. Just wanted to shout that out. Dead Space Remake is going to be available. WWE 2K24 is going to be on there. Definitely some games you'll want to go ahead and check out. So now that I played this very meh horror game, it's October. We're probably going to talk about some of our favorite scary games here over the next few weeks. And so I'm playing one of mine. And that is Resident Evil 2 Remake. And it is just my comfort Halloween game. It is about as perfect a horror game as it gets. The atmosphere is so great leading up to the Mr. X reveal, everything afterwards when you're being chased by him. I actually really like the differences between the two scenarios when you're doing, Leon and then Claire, or Claire and then Leon. It is a 10 out of 10 game for me. Resident Evil 2 is the epitome of survival horror for me. So literally hope they just continue utilizing this template for Resident Evil games going forward, because man, it is so good. Played a bit more of Black Myth Wukong. I'm really taking my time on it, but I am having a blast. The bosses are getting harder and harder though. This game is becoming a lot more difficult for me, so I need to get good, as the kids say. But played a bit more college football as well. And you know what? I think I finally hit my point where I'm going to let my OG franchise die. We're in year 7 now. I've won a few national championships, few Heismans. There's really nothing more for me to accomplish at this school. Looking for a new challenge. It's just... Fuck Oregon. That's
someone really
slogan.
got upset with me saying that.
I know. It's someone in the Saints Block Party Discord got actually upset at Dash for saying it in there one time, because he's
like, who you repping? I'm like, I don't care about college football.
Yeah, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, watch fucking people put up 80 points against some fucking slap school. Watch that shit.
Against insurance salesmen, basically.
Give a fuck about that.
I don't care. But yeah, so a bit more college football. Played a lot of Deadlock. Man, I've been playing a lot, and it is a lot of fun. One thing I will say as well, I have tried to play Final Fantasy 13 10-2, and I cannot believe this game crashes so much. I'm using the Steam community notes now to see if there's a way I can kind of get around some of this. And I think I may have figured it out, like, literally just right before we were recording.
I think that was like one of those PC ports too, so it's not like the HD remaster of 10 where it's optimized better.
Yeah. It's
the easiest way to get around the crashes is just to uninstall.
Not in this case. This is apparently one of the most poorly optimized Square Enix games ever. So
PC was an afterthought for them when those games came out.
It was just another little bit of a cash grab. So, and a series that should be put on modern consoles now because it deserves it. But Dash, I'll hand it over to you, man.
A lot more Space Marine 2, so pretty much I got all the achievements related to the PvP aspects of the game, so I don't have to touch it as much anymore. Which, pretty simple ones. It's like win one match with each class, play 10 of each mode, and I think I think one was just winning the match, so I think that was like 5 right there. I just go around role playing as a Black Templar, so that's my color scheme for my Space Marines at this point. So now it's just a whole bunch of the PvE stuff, which is a lot of grinding and hunting for stuff, because there's like the armory data that you can find in the maps to upgrade your weapons once they're leveled up. But you have to play on the harder difficulties to get the better armory data once you get up to like the epic and the rare tier stuff. So just, it's a grind, but you know, I like the PvE the most because you're leveling up your class, you're unlocking abilities and buffs for your equipment, so it makes the harder difficulties easier. Once you I did one solo, and I kind of regret it because it's on the second difficulty. Just doing it solo is a pain in the ass because even though the bots can hold their own in the fight, everything is much tougher, and they actually start throwing in bosses in the middle of the levels. So you could just go there and run into like a Carnifex or a Hellbrute out of nowhere. So been doing that a lot. Let's see. Oh yeah, Frostpunk 2. That got added to the Game Pass, so I was playing that for quite a bit. I really enjoyed the first Frostpunk, and when it comes to being a sequel, Frostpunk 2 takes everything the original one did and just expands on it, makes it so much better, more intuitive. You get rid of like some of the tedious stuff. Like in the first Frostpunk game, it's about like survival, right? So it's more just like taking these small establishments and slowly growing them out building by building. You're only managing like a couple hundred people at most. Now you have these established cities that you're trying to make set up for survival. So you're not building buildings, you're building districts out, and you'll have like housing districts, extraction districts, industrial districts, whole bunch of new types of resources to manage. So you're not really focused on food as much anymore. It's basically like you have your food income and your food outgoing, and it doesn't really tell you. It's basically like, oh yeah, hunger's an issue now if you're not producing enough food and you don't have a stockpile. So it's definitely a lot different, and I like the changes they've done with it. But it's like now I'm kind of having to relearn the new systems that they put in place, because like I've only gotten up to chapter 1, and I found myself like maybe I built out too quickly, because then I found myself running out of Steam cards, which is pretty much the main currency you use for extraction and building up your districts. So like I'm just waiting for like the weeks to go by so I can actually have enough to build something else. But like there's like 3 things that need to be built at that same time, so I'm just like hemorrhaging resources everywhere as it goes on. So need to learn the new research path. And also, I believe our good friend Jay Britton
was literally just about to say the same thing.
He's the voice of the city. So I think he's the guy that just like talks to you as like stuff pops up.
That's awesome.
Or unless there's multiple voices, I wasn't really paying attention, trying to determine if that was his voice or not. But really fun game. Once I learn it better, maybe I'll actually be better at it, because I haven't gone past the first chapter, but we'll see how it goes. Finally, I just spent like a day just putting out the platinum for Jack and Dexter. I just
for the PS2 port on PS5, right?
Yeah. The HD, like the one that came with the HD collection on PS3, PS4, PS5. So like I have it digitally to play it PS4. So ran through it, and this is like, it's been so long since I played actually just Jak and Daxter, because I'm always jumping back into Jak 2 and 3 the most. So Jak and Daxter was like the start of it, and you can actually get that platinum in less than a day. It's a really short game, and all the trophies are related to the 3 things you have to collect. So I collected all 2,000 precursor orbs, all 101 power cores, and the 112 scout flies, I think it is. So you get the platinum just by doing that.
Hell yeah.
But it was a nice little quick platinum. I've never gotten the one that quickly, I don't think. But
that is insanely fast. I don't think I've ever gotten one.
Yeah,
I think Astro's Playroom is actually probably my fastest one, and that was about 6 hours.
Yeah, 7-8 hours, depending on the you're not missing stuff. Because the fact that you have to get all 2,000 precursor orbs, if you miss one, and some of the levels have up to 200. Thankfully, it tells you how many are in each area, right? So you could be like, okay, where am I missing this? And go focus there. But I tried to like clear everything out before moving on to the next zone. It's for being the first game in the series, it was pretty rocky. Naughty Dog was coming off of making like the Crash Bandicoot games when they made this one, so you feel like a lot of those elements. But I really love how they kind of just did something different with each game in the series as it went on, because Jak and Daxter was your standard kind of like PS2 adventure collect them game kind of, so it had that kind of here collect all 100 apples in a stage kind of thing that Crash Bandicoot had. But then Jak 2 was more of this kind of like GTA-esque more mature. You had guns and stuff. And then Jak 3, I guess you could probably more attribute to like a Mad Max kind of theme, because you're out in the desert with cars and stuff, but it still had kind of like the GTA mission sequence. Then Jak X, you just get full on racing, so that was awesome.
Oh yeah.
But one of my favorite series. Would love Naughty Dog to come back to it. I doubt they will, but they always put up the birthday post when it's anniversary.
Oh yeah. And our final Chocobro, Erik, what have you been doing, man?
I started out after last week's episode. Played some Hell Let Loose.
Ooh.
It was time to cap some Nazis.
It's always time to cap Nazis.
And play as Nazis. So, I'm not going to lie. We didn't discriminate. We played as both. The one thing about I love Hell Let Loose, it just takes 2 hours to play one match. Depending on how, like, if the match is balanced, then you're in for the long haul. So, starting at like 5 o'clock, I had the house to myself. Me and the boys got on. We started out. Utah Beach. Allies. Stormed that shit. Conquered it. Fuck you, Nazis. Dubs. St. Miragli. We went there. Bodies. We were the Nazis that time, though, so R.I.P. to freedom on that one. Then we played Stalingrad. We were Russians. Shout out to the comrades. We did not uphold communism. We got dunked on by the Nazis. Absolutely shit on. It was bad. It made me not want to play for a while again. But I'll tell you, it's so they've added some new maps in, different things. They apparently have some snow maps in. There's apparently some desert maps and things like that now. It's a fun, man. Like you can play with 5 or 6 of your friends, even more if you get them in different squads. We were an infantry squad, so it's all about just team play. Like you have to play with other squads. Some teams have to stay back and defend the points. Other teams need to attack. There's ways you have to. It's just a lot of strategy goes into it. You can't just blindly rush in and cap points. It takes all 50 players on one team pretty much to work together, and that's one thing that's a lot of fun about it. And then it just takes forever. That's the only issue with it. My KD's never very good. I'm usually like 8 kills, 32 deaths, because we'll run into one squad that has just like MG42 set up, and they're just mowing us down like it's Saving Private Ryan or some shit. But after that, I figured I would dive in. As everybody knows, Shattered Space came out yesterday.
It did.
So over the last week, I wanted to grind out my last New Game Plus playthrough that I had did, and wanted to get up to a point where I felt comfortable going off to the DLC, because I wanted to have all my companions, max affinity, have done all the companion quests and things like that. So that's what I really grinded out the last week. And I'll tell you what, like going back, like there's a surface map now, so that's awesome. I've talked about that. But like going back and doing some of these faction quests, it's actually some of my favorite Bethesda faction quests from the last few games. Like the Crimson Fleet story, Dash. I know you played it. I don't know how you felt. I really like the Crimson Fleet storyline. The whole
I like the aspect that you could just like go all in if you wanted to, or it worked both ways because you're either the spy or you just turn on the Vanguard if you want.
You turn on the Vanguard if you want. I really enjoyed that, but it's just really cool that like you're traversing through space after this guy who founded this big pirate organization, and you go find this old lost ship that's in the middle of a giant EMP field. You have to figure out the parts to put on your ship to get through it, and then you have to go fight your way through this giant just bank ship that's loaded with credits. You're basically just doing a large heist, and you come back and it's like, can I keep this or do I turn it over to the authorities and be a cop and then dunk on these pirate bitches? I can't lie to you. I go full cop on it. It's pretty fun. Breaking the law. And, but no, so I did all that. I grinded that out. And then Shattered Space released yesterday, and I put about 4 to 5 hours in it. I will say, so to explain Shattered Space, if you haven't read about it, they've actually just limited this to one planet. And it's all set around House Varun, who wasn't fleshed out in the main story. One of the companions, Andreja, is House Varun, like alumni, a part of that group. And then there's a embassy in New Atlantis that's not really fleshed out, and you go there once, and that's it for the story. And so in this, it starts out, you get a distress call, you go onto this space station that is basically derelict, and it's all torn apart. I almost said derelict, like fucking Zoolander with Mugatu. Derelict! And so you're traversing through this, and it starts out at zero gravity, which I really like. A lot of people seem to not like the combat in Starfield. I thought it's their best combat they've done.
Yeah.
And especially
for
the zero
Bethesda game, especially.
Yeah. For a Bethesda game, especially. Is it the best combat game out there? No. Not the best gunplay ever. But still, it's fun enough to keep me coming back to it. And so anyway, you play through that, and you end up at House of Varun's homeworld. And I won't spoil too much. They have a main city called Darza. And if you ever played, what was it, Dawnguard from Skyrim, you go to the Soul Cairn. And that's kind of like the whole like style, and it just reminds me of the Soul Cairn a lot. It's a very fleshed out world. The art design of it's great. It's a lot of reds, purples. It looks nothing like anything else in the game. And honestly, like I think embracing kind of this space fantasy setting would have been a lot better for them in the game, regardless, instead of trying to keep everything grounded and just going like that NASA punk vibe. And then two, if like the planet's pretty fleshed out. There's some pretty interesting POIs outside the city that make the city feel more full than it is. And then it feels like if they would have not focused on like thousands of procedural generated planets and maybe just done like maybe 10 or 5 to 10 regular planets like this that were truly fleshed out. And even like New Atlantis and Aquila would have benefited a lot from how Darza is, I feel. And it's it kind of shows you what they might have done wrong in the main game. It's fun so far. I'm like basically House Varun's subjected into 3 different houses that help push them up, and everybody's warring for power because there's a bit of a power play going on, and everybody's trying to use that advantage themselves. They're trying to use the player character. And I will say they don't have a dedicated companion for the DLC. So I feel like that's kind of a big miss because some of their better DLCs will introduce companions for you. Like, I mean, just Dawnguard. You have, what is it, Serana? The vampire lady from Dawnguard. You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember her name. Serana? Did you play Dawnguard, Gene?
It's been a hot minute for me, so
I can't. Did you play Skyrim? You didn't play Skyrim? Oh my fucking god.
It's only been re-released like 10 times. You've had to at least get it once.
I know.
Well, I bought it, and I do not like Bethesda games very much.
Fair.
So
yeah, that's fair.
I prefer Fallout over the Elder Scrolls games, personally.
I guess the best thing to compare this to is they kind of say it's more comparable to Far Harbor. I don't know if that's being generous enough, because I do think Far Harbor is one of the better Bethesda DLCs. I think this is probably somewhere in between some of those like random Oblivion DLCs and then like Far Harbor, and then I like Broken Steel a lot from Fallout 3. I think that's one of their better ones too that doesn't get a lot of love.
Yeah, that one that was more kind of like, I would maybe attribute it kind of like Trespasser is for Dragon Age Inquisition, where it's more like a conclusion.
It concludes the story. It adds on to it. It keeps you to be able to play after the game's over. Yep. Whereas Fallout 3 originally, when it ended, it was over. And you went to your last save.
Oh, yeah, you just fucking die.
Yeah. Well, you die, or Sarah dies, or the wasteland ends. It's a few different endings.
You can have Fox with you. He's like, no, this is your journey. You gotta go in there. It's like you're in the radiation. So everybody complained about that. So that was like the one thing they changed with Broken Steel. They're like, okay, we'll let Fox go in there and do it.
Yeah, and so I think that's a big miss, not giving us a new companion, because like one of the problems with Starfield is the companions are all just too goody-goody.
Yeah.
Like none of them are really neutral or evil, so they kind of miss the opportunity to add that in. There's no new ship parts added, which I guess like you have a secluded planet that hasn't been visited in 100 years. Maybe they don't have their own tech type of thing, and some of their ships in the main game are pretty standard. Still would have been cool to get some new ship parts.
Yeah, I'm about to say they could have added new ship
or
designs
even just retro parts.
Yeah,
like
just give everybody some new ship designs for each faction. Give it to the Vanguard, the House of Arun, and all Crimson Fleet. Just give us some new design enemy types to go up against too.
Yeah, and in this playthrough, so I've romanced Andrasia. I've brought her with me to Darza. And it just feels like I'm just got somebody who's like, oh, I've been here a couple times, but she's from there. So, like, she doesn't have a lot of dedicated dialogue for it. And I guess they might have done that just in case in case she dies in your playthrough or whatnot, or whatever happens with it. I don't know if that's why they limited to it, but it just kind of felt like a missed opportunity. One, because she'll, like, bring you random quips that kind of help with the lore a little bit. Or she can chime in to some of the quests, but I haven't brought anybody else there to know if they can chime in or not, or if that's just limited to her. So overall, like, I am having fun. I do think it's one of the better crafted planets and areas in the game, and it adds a lot. I don't know if it's worth $30. For me, I don't feel like I feel like I'm getting the value because I have Game Pass, so I got the game for free with the $30 purchase. So like the time I've put into it, I feel like I've gotten that value. If you were just like, if you had bought the game full price and you're paying for the DLC, I think you should save your money. It's a good DLC. To me, it is. Like, but a lot of people just think it's okay to solid. Like, I think for me, a good DLC is a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that's probably where this hovers. Just a couple misses keep it from being great. The story of it's cool. I hear it's really short, apparently, which really sucks if you're paying $30 because you're not getting a whole lot added mechanic wise to the game. Or any other factors. You have the one planet. So it's just kind of like, what are we doing here? Maybe they just made it like this because they're like, fuck, we got to give this. If they bought the premium edition, we got to make this for free. Which you hope that's not the case. But
you never know.
All in all, I do recommend it at a discount.
Wait for the Game of the Year edition or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. And I do look forward to finishing it. I just, as of now, what I've played through the first 5 hours, I have liked those quests. I can't tell you to spend $30 on this. When you can get $30 games, that probably give you better value than this.
Risk of Rain.
Risk of Rain. Shit, honestly, Hell Let Loose might be $30.
Actually, I think Risk of Rain might be $40.
Actually,
let's see. I'm gonna go search. But I will tell you this. So
Risk of Rain's $25. Even better.
Hell yeah. Hell Let Loose is $35, which I think is very worth it. But speaking of $30 to $40. The newest DLC for Crusader Kings came out. I haven't had a chance to play it because I've been playing so much Starfield. But it's called Roads to Power, and it actually lets you play as unlanded characters. So previously, you've only been able to like pick nobility, or make your own nobility and select different spots. But like, the Game of Thrones mod won't be updated for a couple months now because of this. It was a huge DLC. But like, this will give you the ability, like, you could play as a random Golden Company member, or you could play as Braun. Or somebody like that.
Hell yeah.
As in the past, you haven't been able to do that because they're not nobility or they're not landed characters. So I do I'm going to actually play vanilla for the first time because of this. So once I I'll have some more updates on that next week. But shout out to Paradox and Crusader Kings 3 for their new DLC because it seems to be popular.
Reminded me that I need to pick up the Stellaris DLC that's been coming out.
Let's go.
Did play Valorant. Don't want to talk about it. I'm not good at that fucking game, man. I'm so bad.
Well, let's talk FanX. So, as we talked about at the top of the show, we had our first credentialed media event. I was lucky enough to represent us there with my lovely wife, Al. Thank you so much, babe. You are amazing. She was my photographer.
We've met her.
Yep. Yeah, she's the best. She was my photographer. We had an amazing experience, got to meet so many incredible people, got to see some incredible panels, talk about some amazing things, and also got to meet a few people in gaming, including one of our previous guests, Dev Wild. Dev, in case you're listening, just wanted to say thank you. I actually sent her an email today. She already got back to me and said it was really great to see me. Just honestly was an incredible experience. And I would say to anybody listening, if you have the chance to go to any of your local conventions, do it. Like, just the awe that I was in throughout the entire experience, one, being around so many people that like I have looked up to as characters in some of my favorite media, to vendors who are selling just some of the most cool and unique items, that you can fill up your, cave with, and to some amazing food and also amazing cosplayers, which we'll actually be posting a little bit later this week, some of our favorites that we were able to go ahead and find. But honestly, just so thrilled about FanX. Cannot wait to go back next year. And we're seeing if we can get Erik and Dash at their respective conventions, which would be incredible. And more info to come on that. But honestly, just so grateful, so thrilled. And support your local convention, because it is seriously one of the most amazing experiences. Had a few people while I was there ask me, hey, what's Chocobo Chasers? I was telling them we're a podcast. They actually subscribed literally just while we're online talking. So next year, going to have to go with stickers and cards and everything, because there's a big...
Do the Saint City and Me style where we're just slapping them stickers all over the place.
Exactly. But honestly, there's a huge that's our target audience too. Like, those are people who are interested in the things that we're interested in. So it was incredible. I can't say enough. It was one of the best weekends of my life, and can't wait to get back and get you guys there and get you guys here, because honestly, would love to experience that with you boys, and it would be an absolutely insane thing. So one thing,
do they allow alcohol in Utah?
Oh yeah. There were people drinking in the convention.
I was fucking with you. I know that's you.
I know. Big Mormon state. And
you did get like pictures, but were there like any kind of like mini interviews you got to do then?
I did. I actually got to have a little mini interview with Patricia Somerset of The Legend of Zelda. She's actually the voice of Zelda. So we'll be posting some of that a little bit later this week. We had it across a few different devices, so getting it all together has been all sorts of fun.
Yeah, I think I would need to get some equipment before I even go to one of these conventions myself, because
I've actually got some for you, and we'll just send it over.
Oh, really? That would probably work. Yeah, I'll take care of it.
So we'll make sure you guys are ready. But let's talk gaming news. So one thing that isn't on we have a little agenda, but I wanted to talk about this because I did remember, and I wanted to make sure we were covering it. Star Wars Outlaws has very heavily undersold for their expectations. If rumors are to be believed, and again, this is nothing official, selling 1 million copies so far. Selling 1 million copies for an open world... Selling 1 million copies for an open world Star Wars game should be impossible. Put this into perspective. Star Wars Jedi, the series from Respawn, has sold 40 million copies in 2 games. You're going to get the bulk majority of your sales in the first few weeks of your game launching as well. Star Wars has underdelivered. Everyone I've talked to who's played Outlaws seems to have had a decent time with it. The bugs are still there, so I'm definitely waiting. You know, if a Black Friday sale comes up and it's hitting that like $30 price point, I'll probably pick it up, honestly, at that point.
I don't think I'm ever going to buy a Ubisoft game day one at this point.
I mean, where's the benefit? Like, oh, you're going to play 3 days early, you're going to play a buggy, you know, just
we have the season pass
mess. Like,
you know, there's a whole bunch of content that's still going to be coming back. They're going to bundle it in the gold edition that's going to release like a year later and at discount price. Like, I can wait. These games are not that.
Yeah, it's just wild. Like, it's wild that they would, you know, and we were pretty excited about Outlaws. Honestly, leading up to it, like we were pretty stoked.
Y'all were. I knew. The Oracle.
Ubisoft games are fun to play, but like they're not like one of those games where you rush to play. It's kind of like I'll play it if it's like, you know, heavily on sale or maybe even a PlayStation Plus or Xbox Game Pass kind of game.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely agree with that. And now we've got Assassin's Creed Shadows being delayed too, apparently because it is in just a nearly unplayable state at this point. So
Bethesda's Ubisoft's learning.
Yeah, and it was going to come out around the same time as other big games of the year, so it was going to get dumped.
It's supposed to be this month, right?
And now it's supposed to be this month. Now watch it launch around the same time as another game we're going to be talking about here in a little bit. Before we go ahead and get to that, one thing I did want to go ahead and shout out, I saw this actually earlier, I think today on Twitter. Unreal has started offering a new program to their creators. They're going to offer discounts. Apparently, as of now, Unreal offers a 5% cost for you to use their engine to make your games. As obvious, for those who don't know, Epic, the parent company for Unreal, also owns Epic Games Publishing, and they've now said that they're going to lower your percentage down from 5 to 3.5% if you launch your game on Epic, and you can still launch it on Steam. You can still launch it like wherever. Just you'll never see Steam do something like this because Steam is obviously the king of the marketplace. They have the ability to set the standard, but just thought it was really cool that Unreal will do something like that for creators, especially I know indie game makers. We're working with 2 of them right now. They're always looking at means that they can cut some cost and try to, you know, make those margins as manageable as possible. So definitely very interesting. We'll have to see if maybe Epic and Unreal potentially do start working with a bit more studios going forward.
Epic's also suing like Samsung and Google for having built-in ad blockers on their phones.
Right. So we previewed State of Play last week. We said there's no way Ghost 2 is going to show up, and then we showed our ass.
I was right. I was right eventually.
Yeah.
If I keep saying it, it'll eventually become true.
I apparently just have to go the Dino Crisis route like Erik did with Ghost 2. But so we got our State of Play. I will say the show started off a little slow. There were some games that were exciting. And there was some lead up. You know, is Days Gone getting a remaster? Is Horizon getting a remaster? Horizon is. But similar to like The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, it's a $10 upgrade. Sony literally gave Horizon away as part of the Play at Home initiative during COVID. And if you downloaded and added the game to your library at that time, you can upgrade for $9.99. So I will actually be picking up the Horizon Remaster because it's not very expensive. So absolutely something that I'll be doing. We didn't get any Days Gone Remaster info, so that it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not coming. We did get Lego Horizon as well, some new PlayStation Slim skins as well as controllers. Talked a bit more about the PlayStation 5 Pro and some of the games that are going to be optimized. Alan Wake 2 is getting another expansion, and man, it looks pretty awesome. right in time for Halloween. Some of the games that were shown did look pretty awesome. We got an extended look at Dragon Age, the Veilguard, which continues to look awesome. We got an additional look at Dynasty Warriors Origins, which if you've played a Dynasty Warrior game, this looks like a Dynasty Warriors game, which is, again, looked awesome.
Probably the best looking one we've had in years.
And then we also had Hell Is Us, which is a game that was shown. Looks kind of a Soulsy, but like futuristic style game. Very, very cool from what we saw. We did finally get Soul Reaver 1 and 2 Remastered officially coming December 10th. And it's launching at a $29.99 price point, which I think is so important. The game, it's funny because they showed what the game used to look like compared to what it looks like now. And I remember the game looking like how it's looking like now in the remastered version. I did not realize it aged as poorly as it did. But honestly, it looks great. I will be picking it up day one, playing it. I hope everybody does too, because if more people buy this game, we'll potentially get a full-fledged remake or we'll get a sequel. That's really what I want. I just want more games in this series. Monster Hunter Wilds, I could not give a fuck about Monster Hunter. Literally, I know it's Capcom's like #1 selling game, but I could not be less interested.
It's probably got to be the most unpopular opinion that we as a podcast have, was just that we do not like Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter. Yeah, it just doesn't do it.
I don't give a fuck about that game.
What's so funny was that Pal World was there, and they announced literally that day that they were being sued.
Yeah, by Nintendo.
So, very, very funny. Stellar Blade is getting Nier Automata crossover, which is pretty exciting, actually. I think that's pretty cool. TMNT Shredder's Revenge, new DLC, which I don't think was new. They just showed a bit more information around it. Keanu Reeves is going to voice Shadow for a DLC pack for Sonic Shadow Generations. But let's talk Ghost of Yotei. This game, obviously, has been in the works for a while. At Sucker Punch, was announced with a 2025 release date. I know some people have gone on the offensive a little bit. Oh, Jin is not going to be in the game. This game takes place 300 years after Jin Sakai. So I do think that we may potentially get, legends talking about, the Ghost of Tsushima. This game, I was thinking about it when I saw the trailer for the first time. What did Ghost really need to do better? And there really wasn't a lot. Like, the combat was super crispy. The story was incredibly engaging. It had characters that you really cared for, and you wanted things to work out, but you could sense this, this battle inside of Jin, wanting to both remain a samurai, but also do whatever it takes to save his home. And in the end, he, lets go of being a samurai in order to, destroy the Khan. And so, Ghost of Yotei, there was a lot of horseback riding shown. The visuals for the game look immense. Like, it looks absolutely beautiful. You're going to get new weapons, which was honestly one thing I didn't even really notice too much in Ghost, because it is just so fun. But the ability to play with dual weapons, the ability to use a Kisarigama, and also having an animal companion in the game, which is going to be a new fun feature. Like, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts too. What are your thoughts on Ghost of Yotei? Erik, how hyped are you right now?
I'm hyped as fuck. I do wish we got my boy Jin back. I would have liked to see him just go to Japan. Like, let him go all the way into mainland. They don't know who the fuck he is.
Yeah, I feel like they've definitely probably explored that as a story option, because they just said, like, we felt like we told a story and there wasn't anything much more we could do with it. So
yeah, no, for sure. It would have been nice to see my boy back, but you know what? I'm excited for the new, and like you said, new weapons.
Let him voice another character, though.
Yeah, let him voice the Shogun.
Yep.
That would actually be super dope.
We've got you, Daisuke. We want you back.
Daisuke and Earl, please.
And Earl. Yeah, I apologize,
come back
Earl.
to Ghost.
Yeah,
Because
I would love for you guys to come back. It's also nice seeing them get quite a bit of work still. Like, both of them are.
they're both doing awesome. I mean, obviously, Daisuke was Scorpion in his post Ghost of Tsushima work, and I'm sure he's probably got some other stuff in the works as well. Because the life of an actor is full of NDAs. Whether you're an actor or a voice actor. And then Earl was literally just in Rise of the Ronin as well. So we're getting to see quite a bit more. But honestly, Ghost blew the doors off of that conference. Was not expecting hey, we have one more surprise for you kind of game, because I feel like we have not had that in a long time. This made the conference like a tier.
It went from just saying like there's some cool stuff, and then to okay, I'm fucking hyped.
Yeah,
there's actually something
ready
to look
for the future of PlayStation, which is what we've been asking for. Like, we have wanted to see what is next for PlayStation, and this is just one studio, because you do have so many others. You have Naughty Dog, you have Guerrilla, and obviously Guerrilla is working on the next Horizon game, and potentially, if rumors are to be believed, in a multiplayer Horizon game as well. You've got Insomniac, you've got Naughty Dog. Like, there's a lot more. So excited the PlayStation's back. Hopefully they can just capitalize on this, and we can get some more information on some of these other studios here pretty soon. So one other game I wanted to talk about as well, Throne and Liberty. We as a group haven't really talked about this too much. So Amazon is attempting the MMO game again. Hasn't worked out so well for them so far. New World was launched to pretty middling success. Had a pretty good amount of players, if I remember, to start with, but it just has not maintained that player base.
It was just like that hot thing for the month, and then it just dropped off once streamers and people stopped playing it.
So it launched today. I know that there is a bit of server issues, but I mean, it's just because so many people are trying to play the game. We'll have to wait till next week to see if there is, any potential good news. I may actually hop in just to see. I don't know that I've ever played an MMO. One, I can never bring myself to pay more money for a game that I've already paid for. Because, I know that I would love Final Fantasy XIV, but I will not pay more money than just, $60, $70 for a game. And it just, it's hard. But Final Fantasy is really smart, because they let you play till level 60 for free, and then...
Isn't it 70 now?
Or 70. They let you play for free, and then you're hooked, and you have to keep playing, so now you're gonna pay. But no.
That's a decent amount of content, though, just to go through all of A Realm Reborn, all the patches, then you have to do Heaven's Sword, and all the patches there. Like, they make you play it linearly. You can't skip expansions. Yeah. That's a positive and a negative, I feel like.
Yeah. Absolutely. And lastly, with this, or two more things for the show today. Liam Hemsworth. So it's been very, very public with Henry Cavill leaving The Witcher. Henry Cavill, it sucks because he was a perfect Geralt. He was exactly what the show needed, and apparently was one of the only voices of reason, in talks with the writers, because he was someone who had read the source material. He knows Geralt. And what happens with adaptations, writers decide, I'm all for creative liberties, but not at the sake of making the story not what it is. And that's exactly what's happened with The Witcher. So due to creative differences, Henry is leaving. They tried to make it sound like, oh, well, he's leaving to go play Superman again. Well, he's not playing Superman anymore.
They were saying he was toxic, too. So it was like, oh, yeah, he was very hard to work with. It's like, well, yeah, because he's a big Witcher fan, and you're changing everything he loves about it.
He wants it to be great. Because, those first two seasons are pretty awesome.
Mainly the first season. I didn't watch
Mainly the first, yes. Season. Well, the first was a very close adaptation. Like, and it's hard too because you're working out of order. But I thought they did a great job. Just anyway, the reason I'm bringing this up is Liam Hemsworth is the new Geralt. I haven't even seen the most recent season of The Witcher, so I don't even know how this...
Did not watch season 3 at all.
Yeah, I don't know how this comes about.
I watched it. It wasn't good.
Oh.
I quit watching it, if that makes you...
You're just reinforcing the decision here, Eric.
Oh, don't do it. It's like Rings of Power. Don't fucking watch it.
So...
House of Dragons going that way, too, you fucking idiots. Ryan Condal, Sarah Hess, fuck both of y'all.
So, Liam is taking over as Geralt. He has not read any of the source material, but he has played The Witcher 3, loves the game. So he does have a little bit of an inkling of what Geralt is supposed to be as a character. My thing here is that I think Liam honestly probably would have been fine as Geralt if they had cast him from the start. I think it honestly would not have been a huge issue. But I think this man is about to receive, like, Laura Bailey level of hate, like, post The Last of Us 2. Because, for those who are unaware, Laura Bailey was treated so obscenely shitty by The Last of Us fans after the game dropped. She won Best Actor in a Video Game. Like, she is so... insanely talented and did an amazing job in the role. You can hate her character. That's fine. Like, I'm not gonna
don't know
spoil...
what it is with people that can't separate an actor from the character. We see it all the time in Star Wars, Game of Thrones. Just, I don't get it.
It's disgusting. You had people who were saying, like, awful things. She had just given birth and people saying things about her baby. Like, it is sickening. My hope is that we don't experience that with Liam Hemsworth. I just feel like we're potentially on our way to something of that nature, and that just feels gross. If that's gonna
We're coming up on The Last of Us season 2 for HBO also.
I know. Put Caitlin Dever in bubble wrap right now because she is an amazing actress.
We are apologizing in advance.
We don't have to apologize for shit because we're not. I can already tell you she's gonna kill it in this role. I'm sorry to whoever hasn't played the game. You're not ready for what's about to happen. But yeah. Lastly, for the show tonight, Dash, you brought it up just actually right before we were going to start recording. Got a little bit more information on Dragon Age, and only 3 of your decisions are going to carry over from Inquisition. Is that right?
Yep. So that, as we knew from like months ago, they're getting rid of the Dragon Age Keep system, where it had like a compilation of like all your choices from all 3 games, and there was like hundreds of choices. And you know, I get it. Like, there's a lot to keep track of, and it might have just been like small things. Like, I liked how Mass Effect did it, where, you know, you make certain decisions. All it did was change like a conversation, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe a character's alive or dead, but it doesn't change the overall world state. But for the like a lot of the choices in Dragon Age, they always make it seem like, and there's Mass Effect was like, oh, this is a good choice, this is a bad choice. You didn't have that in Dragon Age. There's a lot of these gray choices where it could go either way.
Yeah, very
and
nuanced. Inquisition
especially was filled with decisions that felt like they were going to have far-reaching consequences beyond Inquisition. And the 3 choices that are being brought over are, who did you romance? Did you break up the Inquisition and Trespasser? And did you say that you're going to stop Solus at the end of Trespasser, or are you going to try to convince him he's wrong? Those are the 3 choices. They have nothing about the Well of Sorrows, which was framed as this really big choice, right? It's like, oh, is the Inquisitor going to drink from the Well of Sorrows, or are you going to let Morgan drink from it? Nothing about like what choices you made at the royal court for Orlais, where you decide who's going to rule Orlais, which felt like it was going to have consequences in the future depending on what you did. It was always my gripe about the Dragon Age games specifically, because I felt like these major decisions you make game to game didn't change anything. And maybe this is part of the reason why there's a 10-year dev cycle for this next game after Inquisition, because we know initially it was going to be a multiplayer live service game only. That got scrapped, so they probably had to work from scratch. And as they're doing it, they're probably thinking, how are we going to do all these choices in our game and still hold the story together? So I feel like they probably just took the laser out. They're like, we're not worried about that stuff. This is the only stuff that matters, and we're just going to focus on it. I get it's probably been like, 10 years in game too since some of those decisions.
Yeah.
But it's just, I like my decisions to matter or feel like they mattered.
Yeah.
So I'm still looking forward to Veilguard and the overall story that they're looking for here. I doubt those, like I said, those decisions probably wouldn't change the overall story too much, but it would have been nice to have some mention or impact with it.
Yeah. But I mean, we're coming up quick on Veilguard launching. I mean, we've only got a few weeks left. October is absolutely insane for games. We'll be having some reviews of some games. We'll actually be skipping next week. I will be out of town in San Francisco for a work trip, so we'll be taking a week off and then coming back the following week, and I'll have first impressions of Silent Hill 2.
Yep, we got Silent Hill 2, Metaphor, or Metaphor
Refantasio, yes.
Yep.
And
that's another big one.
Yeah.
Dragon Age ends up the month. I know there's a couple other stuff that was probably in the middle of the month.
Life is Strange, which is a game I'm very excited for. We've got a few. So definitely things that we are insanely excited for. As always, we appreciate everybody who has listened and who continues to listen. We will catch you guys next time.
Yep. Have a good one.
I